Okay, guys, I thought we'd share this live. Chuck Schumer's about to talk on the impeachment. Let's listen to some hypocrisy. This is a last minute deal, so we'll just listen in, make a couple comments, get some uh, get some live interaction from Mr. Chuck E. Schumer. What's up, guys? Chuck E. Schumer's about to spew some hypocrisy, so I thought we'd all Schumer's a dunce. No doubt. No doubt. What's up, my liberty loving friends? Schumer needs to be impeached. Nazi Pelosi needs to be impeached. Oh, here goes the cameras. Here goes the political rock stars. He is a swamp rat, I agree. I thought we'd all hang out together and listen to some garbage being spewed from Washington's District of Criminals. Gosh, I wonder what he will say. Been listening to Adam Schiff for brains today. Hope you're staying up on this impeachment. It's so important. It's so important. Did you guys see Nazi Pelosi try to walk through a drunken stupor as she proclaimed the impeachment process yesterday?
Afternoon, everybody, and I'm sorry for being a little bit late.
I was taking a nap. I was taking a nap.
So I'm going to talk about two things. First, what happened in the Senate, and then what's happening in the House and here in Washington. But the two are related.
Ethan. That's right.
There's a common theme to the events on both sides of the Capitol, and that is dealing with an overreaching executive. Now, here in the Senate, we just sent a strong message to President Trump that under our Constitution, the executive branch and the legislative branch are co-equal. After President Trump decided to divert $3.6 billion from our military, military families, to a wall that he promised again and again and again would be paid for by Mexico, Congress stood up today and said in a bipartisan voice that the president was just simply wrong. It's our job in Congress to limit
more garbage than a trash truck. That's pretty funny.
Defend our core powers, to prevent a president, any president, from ignoring the will of Congress every time it fails to align with the will of the president. That's what the separation of powers means. That's what checks and balances are for. And that's what today's vote reflects.
I just changed the title of my video here.
In the past 2
more
years,
appropriate.
Republican senators in blind obeisance to this president have indulged his worst impulses. But those Republican senators who voted to buck the president and voted against his wall, to them I say thank you. To Senators Wicker and Toomey, Romney, Collins, thank you for standing up for the Constitution. Thank you for showing some sense and some courage. These Republican senators said, plain and simple, that President Trump was wrong, and they voted against funding his wall by taking money from the military. The senators that did not vote with us should be ashamed. Ashamed that they just gave cover to this president to trample our Constitution and steal from the military. But can we get some quiet down there, please? Thank you. But the bipartisan vote today suggests that perhaps my Republican colleagues are beginning to rise to the occasion. Now, on the transcript and the ensuing events. Earlier this morning, President the President Trump released a quote-unquote document of his call with President Zelensky. Considering this document was something the White House chose to release, it was far more damaging to the president's case than any of us anticipated. In this telephone conversation, the President of the United States made an extraordinary request to the President of Ukraine to investigate Trump's political opponent and aid President Trump's re-election campaign. Does anyone think this conversation was in the national interest, or was it in the president's personal political interest?
Well, it depends. Was a crime committed? Yeah, it was.
Do any of my Republican colleagues think this phone call reflects a president pursuing the national interest, or was he pursuing his own political ambitions?
Well, did Biden commit a crime?
Every Republican, every one of them, needs to answer this question. The document also raises a host of new questions that I expect the House impeachment inquiry will seek to answer. Here are some of them. Do my colleagues believe it's appropriate, after the Ukrainian president brings up a request for military aid, for the president to say, "I would like you to do us a favor, though," before asking him to investigate a right-wing conspiracy theory? President Trump mentioned multiple times during the call he wanted President Zelensky to speak with Attorney General Barr and Rudy Giuliani. What conversations between Barr, Giuliani, and President Zelensky and other Ukrainian officials occurred? Did they actually speak to one another? What did they say? And what promises or requests were made by Attorney General Barr and Mr. Giuliani? Why would the president involve his personal lawyer, Mr. Giuliani, in what President Trump claims was official government business? There are many, and was that done to get around some official channels in the State Department and elsewhere? There are many more questions, and those are just the ones that come from the document we were given. This White House has a history.
Yeah, I agree. Read the damn thing.
Public
Just read it.
disclosures
Tell us what it
to
says.
save the president from embarrassment.
Don't make commentary on it.
If they do it for small things, like when they changed the transcript of the White House communications director saying the president, quote, sinks 3-foot putts, into saying he sinks 30-foot putts, then there's no telling what they do in a document as consequential as this one. Even with the possibility that the administration doctored or left out major sections, though, this document demonstrates that President Trump made it abundantly and redundantly clear to the president of the Ukraine that he wanted him to investigate his political opponent. And further, that he wanted him to work with Attorney General Barr to make it happen. Let me say that again.
Look at
This document
Hillary Clinton
absolutely
weighed in on this too.
validates the wisdom
Read that in a second.
of Speaker Pelosi's decision to open up a formal impeachment inquiry. President Trump and his allies, like Leader McConnell, like Leader McCarthy, will say this is about politics. And of course, they'll do what they usually do. Accuse Democrats of trying to relitigate 2016. There is no credible or straight-faced reason to believe that. This is about our national security, the integrity of our foreign policy, and democratic elections. This is about abuse of power by an overreaching executive, something the founding fathers feared. And what they feared at the top of the list was that that overreaching executive would be involved with foreign powers to jaundice what happens here in America. There should be a bipartisan concern about these issues. It shouldn't be Democrats or Republicans. It should be congressmen, senators of either party who are saying we need to look into this. Indeed, just yesterday, every single Republican senator said that the administration's decision to withhold the whistleblower complaint from Congress was wrong. We just had a vote where a number of my Republican colleagues said the administration was wrong to divert funds from the military to build the wall. So it's beginning to seem, with the crescendo of events, that Republicans are beginning to stand up to the president when he's wrong. That hasn't happened much in the past. But I hope that my Republican colleagues will see that Leader McConnell's strategy of defending the president at all costs is a losing one, and stand up for the rule of law and our democracy. Questions? Just on this subject. Well, no, you, not you.
Senator Schumer, what do you think the Senate needs to do at this point? Do you just have to wait for the House to do its work on this question? How will you do it?
Well, again, there is the Senate Intelligence Committee. Senators Burr and Warner have had a good relationship, and they should pursue looking into these facts as well.
Senator Schumer, we didn't really discuss the possibility of impeachment or during the Russia investigation, but now you are on this Ukraine investigation. What's categorically different? Why did you not?
The president is directly involved here. It's pretty clear what has happened, and I think this, as bad as the other stuff was, this is even worse.
There are a number of bills that you are trying to work across the aisle with Republicans and the White House on right now, including gun control, USMCA. Do you fear that an impeachment inquiry is going to extinguish any hope of working across the aisle with the White House or with Republican colleagues?
Okay. Well, it's certainly not on our behalf. We're going to try to work on issues with our Republican colleagues, even with the president when we can. We believe we need to do something about guns. We believe we need to reduce the cost of prescription drugs. The $64,000 question is, will the president want to work with us, given what happened? We shall see. Taylor?
Private conversations with Republicans that lead you to believe that
Yeah, how do we know Schumer's lying? Because he's moving his mouth.
question on this case?
I think the cascade of issues and facts that are coming forward is enormous. And I do think all along, many of our Republican colleagues have expressed personal doubts to us privately. But I think more and more are now going to begin to have to say something publicly. This is just too much. Last question.
If articles of impeachment are passed by the House, are you certain there would be a trial here in the Senate?
Well, look, we're not up to that yet. Let the House do a thorough investigation. Let them do it in a bipartisan way, and we'll see what happens. Thank you, everybody.
Yeah, so never mind that Biden was about to give the Ukraine, and of course it was approved by Congress. Never mind that Congress approved $391 million for Ukrainian military aid. Let's talk about Trump's 8 conversations that he had with the Ukraine president about Biden doing something that Biden admits to doing. Biden admits this. Here you go. Here's Council on Foreign Relations guy. Okay, Council on Foreign Relations might as well be it's Zionist international bankers. These are your enemies. Council on Foreign Relations are the enemies of America. So here's what Joe Biden says. This is his admission. Oh, wait a second. I got the sound down. Shoot. I had it queued up.
I had gotten a commitment from Poroshenko. They would take action against the state prosecutor, and they didn't. I said, I'm telling you, you're not getting $1 billion. I said, you're not getting $1 billion. I'm going to be leaving here. And I think it was, 6 hours? I looked at it, I said, I'm leaving in 6 hours. If the prosecutor's not fired, you're not getting the money. Well, son of a got fired. And they put in place someone who was solid.
Yeah. The general prosecution got fired because he was about to investigate the company that his son Hunter worked for. So you can't have that because the cash cow for Hunter, he was making tons and tons of money with this company in the Ukraine. But Daddy Biden steps in, makes a couple phone calls, says we're going to withhold $1 billion. Guys, think about this. We're not going to give you $1 billion American tax dollars until you get rid of the general prosecution. Let's not talk about anything else but the $1 billion. Yeah, they're just talking about $1 billion here, $1 billion there. Who cares? Whatever. Oh, yeah, we need to impeach Trump because he had 8 phone calls with the Ukrainian president, and it was against his political opponent, and we can't have that because you can't meddle with the election, the selection. It's a selection process. It's not even an election process. The sacred election process. We must do all that we can to protect it. Meanwhile, 500,000 Americans don't even have shelter. They don't have food. They don't have adequate clothing, and they're living homeless on the streets. And we got $1 billion to shove over here, and $1 billion in there, and $1 billion over. Oh, do you need $1 billion? Wait a second. Before I can give you this $1 billion, you got to make sure you don't investigate the company my son works for because that looks kind of bad. So I'm not giving you your $1 billion until you lay off of him. Oh, okay. You laid off. Okay, fine. Here's your $1 billion. We're not talking about any of that kind of stuff. And Hillary Clinton, of all people to say anything, I mean, you would think she would have already stuck a sock in it. You know, I need to just shut up, shut my fat mouth. What did she say? So how can they even live with their hypocrisy? I don't even understand it. That these people can even sleep at night. The president of the United States has betrayed our country. Really? Uranium One, ring a bell there, Hillary? Does that make it, any mental clarity there? That's not a political statement. It's a harsh reality, and we must act. He's a clear and present danger to the things that keep us strong and free. I support impeachment. Hillary Clinton? What the? Are we Americans that brain dead? And not only that, look, if you go to Hillary's Twitter page, let's just go ahead and look at this. If you actually go to her Twitter page, let me bring it up here on the big screen. You would think people wouldn't like this, but what did she have? 146,000 likes and 29.2 thousand retweets, and people going, "You're our president. Thanks, Hillary." Let's see, what is it? Let's see. This person says, you can see people just totally caught in the left versus right dog and pony show. Impeachment of Trump will be the closure I need to move on from my regret of voting for him. I can't speak for the rest. I like this guy. Oh, this is Carpe Donktum. I can't speak for the rest of America, but go F yourself, Hillary. That's about the only intelligent response on Hillary's thing that I've read. The man is clearly obsessed with you. It's really scary. The next time a politician says on tape that he likes to grab women by the pee against their will, let's not elect him. It's like, oh my gosh. There's so much here. There's so much ignorance and nonsense and BS. So I wanted to play the Chuck Schumer thing because it really amazes me, guys. You wake up some mornings and you think, okay, maybe Americans are going to wake up. Maybe we're going to understand that, we're being exploited, we're being extorted, and these political parasites are literally using my money and your money to do whatever they want to as they gallivant across the country with this massive carbon footprint and try to tell us that we're the ones destroying the earth. It's all a bunch of psychopathic lunacy. So I just thought I'd share that with you. Let's read some comments here. See what you guys have to say. Hope you guys are doing good today. I know you were doing better before you heard Chucky Schumer, right? Follow bad lip reading. Funny stuff. Yeah, bad lip reading is really hilarious, Deborah. Spencer says, I bet there are more than 1 million homeless. Yeah, you're probably right. And you know what's sad is that there's more vacant homes in America than there are homeless people. Wow, that's ironic, huh? Their hypocrisy is so bad. The dog returning to its vomit. How long until they look in the mirror? This is from I Thought I Knew. They look in the mirror every day and they got no problem with themselves. That's the scary part. Let's rape, burn, pillage, take away their personal protective devices, make red flag laws, universal background checks, just rake them over the coals with $93 trillion of the Green New Deal for climate change, make them feel bad for destroying the environment when it's really us, the government, who are doing it. And I can sleep really well at night with my stogie and my cognac, watching Netflix with all my other parasitic buddies. It's come so easy for them. The evil just oozes out of their pores. What's your take on mass immigration? I had a conversation with somebody last night. If you there's a really interesting, maybe we can watch the video some other time. I'm kind of pressed for time right now, but there's an interesting video. It's a debate between Larkin Rose and Lauren Southern. Me and my girlfriend were talking about it last night, and you have to understand, with immigration, you got to talk about borders, and with borders, you have to talk about the imaginary concept called government. This idea that somebody has a higher claim over your life and property than you, and that it's okay to initiate unjust force and violence on peaceful people who haven't done anything wrong. So all borders are imaginary. You know, that border between Canada, this landmass called Canada, and this landmass called the America, and then down south you have the landmass of America and the landmass of Mexico. What defines those borders? It's the gang of America saying this is my land, and the gang of Mexico and the gang of Canada saying this is my land and this is the imaginary border. And I, the politician, say that you Mexican can't go from that tree in Mexico to that tree over there in the United States. And if you do, then I am just a mere human being, declare you to be an illegal human being. Who has the power? Who legitimately has the power to do that? And then I also understand on the other end of it that, if you have private property and you build a fence, a wall or whatever, a chain link fence or a big, wood fence or a brick fence or whatever like that, you want to keep people from coming in on your private property. But the thing is, with a border wall and immigration, it's this gang of robbers and thieves and scoundrels and corrupt psychopaths saying that the people of another gang of evil, robbing, corrupt, warmongering psychopaths can't come over here. So my thing is, I understand the dangers of people coming in, and I understand what happens when they do come in. But let's face it, guys, government has incentivized people from specifically Mexico, because you don't see the immigration problem coming, north of the border. But we've incentivized people to come across here because of the lame brain leftist liberal handouts. Hey, look, free healthcare. We're going to give you a huge cut. We're going to guarantee you $15 an hour. Look at all these benefits that you can get. You can come in here and get your kids need medical care. No problem. We'll do that on the American taxpayer dime. Who wouldn't want to come across the border? I would. If I lived in Mexico, I'd risk, being an illegal immigrant. So what do I think about immigration? I got a real problem. I got a real problem with government on that. The equation that muddies that whole thing, that puts the fly in the ointment on that thing for me, is government. So, and I'd like to talk a little bit more about this maybe in a future broadcast or live stream or whatever. But that's where I stand. But a really good starting point is Lauren Southern debating Larkin Rose, and I understand Lauren Southern's point about crime going up and all that kind of stuff. But you got to understand, with the point of anarchy and the illegitimacy of people in government saying that, oh, I'm a human being, but I declare you illegal because you come from any other country governed by another government. It's like we were talking about last night. It's magic fairy pixie dust. Who has the right to do that? I don't know. But then, when you got certain people that come across the border starting to wreak havoc and rape your women and all that kind of stuff, that's why you need to be armed. It's not up to the government to protect you. It's up to you to protect you. It's up to you to cement those relationships with your neighbors where you're all watching out for each other, so that when those immigrants or whoever comes in and does any kind of harm, that's where justice has to happen. See, justice doesn't take place with government. Matter of fact, injustice, wholesale injustice, takes place with government. The fundamental building block of government, the only way you can have government is to feed the beast. And how is the beast fed? Through taxation. Well, what is taxation? Taxation is theft, and more specifically, taxation is theft through threats of force, which equals extortion. The government can only live through extortion. And that's what that in and of itself is what makes the United States government, the government of France, Germany, anybody who extorts their people, that alone makes it immoral. So when you have when you have these banners up here that says socialism is evil, change my mind. Communism is evil, change my mind. How about the U.S. government is evil, change my mind? The fundamental building blocks that make up what the U.S. government is today and who runs the U.S. government, all the charlatans in there, all the psychopaths, all the left versus right paradigm, dog and pony show, CIA, infiltrating operatives. They can only operate off of forced theft, which is extortion, which they call taxation. And see, taxation is just another euphemism. All governments are evil. That's right. All governments are evil. And we can prove that. It's objective. It's objective, not subjective. Objective. The impeachment group, reading some of your comments here. My pocket knife is just my letter opener. This harmful. There are harmful immigrants, but they're just people. If you just look at people as people instead of that black guy hurt that white guy or that white cop harmed that black guy, it's like that guy committed a crime clearly because he did something that violated the golden rule, which we talked a lot about last night. And I don't mind harping on it. Let's see. The concept that someone else has more authority over your freedom, liberty is the concept of slavery, Adam K says. Yep, exactly. And what is government? Government is slavery. Government is, it comes from the two Greek words, Latin words, governo and mentis, which means to control or govern, and the mind, to control the mind, or mind control. Government is all about control, and therefore it's illegitimate because it's controlled by threats of force. If you don't believe in borders, why do you need guns? What? What are you talking about? I don't believe in government borders. And what do guns have to do with borders? There's no borders in a mall when somebody starts a shooting, but if you're a concealed carrier, you can throw down the threat. It has nothing to do with borders. It has something to do with a person initiating unjust force and violence. I don't care if it's government. I don't care if it's a Mexican. I don't care if it's an American. I don't care if it's a black guy. I don't care if it's a white guy. It doesn't matter to me if it's a woman. It doesn't matter to me if it's transgender. If that individual initiates violence against you, it doesn't matter about borders. If they come against you in an unwelcome manner without your consent, if they try to steal your stuff, if they try to harm your family, if they try to harm you, then it's perfectly just to inflict harm on them. The defensive use of force is perfectly just. See, I'm for the non-aggression principle, but there's a limit to the non-aggression principle. Is if somebody shows aggression against you or tries to harm your girlfriend or your wife or your kids or your husband or your mom or your dad, they deserve to be put down. And you can take put down however you want to. I'm not going to elaborate on that any further, YouTube. So yeah, Frederick Godzilla Mencken, owning guns doesn't have anything to do with borders. If you have property lines, who will manage that? But it's personal property lines. It's not government imaginary lines. You have a boundary that you paid for out of your own money. See, government steals money and then declares everything to be theirs. Oh, the woodlands are ours. Oh, those are ours. Those roads are ours. Those cities are ours. Those schools are ours. Those bridges are ours. It's utter nonsense. It doesn't make sense to conflate. T. Ferguson said it doesn't make sense to conflate the Constitution with government. Yeah, it really doesn't. It doesn't. And when I say Constitution, I'm only talking about the 10 Amendments, the Bill of Rights. A lot of that other stuff is just utter nonsense, man. A lot of stuff in the Constitution is utter nonsense. If we stripped everything down in America today and we eliminated every single frickin' law, which is just the opinions of man backed by the threat of force, and just stuck with the first 10 amendments, we'd be fine. We'd be golden. Golden. And maybe one thing in there about make nothing but gold and silver legal tender for debts. Because gold and silver, the existence of gold and silver it implies that you've already worked for it. The scientists have already found out where the mother lode is. They've hired engineers. They've hired the contractors to dig. They've unearthed it. They've taken it to the smelters. They put it in the crucible. They've wiped off the dross. They've brought the silver or the gold up to the top. It took a lot of work. It took a lot of planning. And intrinsically, it's valuable and has been for what, 6,000 years? And now we got fiat currency, was supposed to be a note signifying a certain amount of gold or silver in the treasury, which no longer exists. So now when it's kind of like the ticket you get for dry cleaning. I haven't dry cleaned my clothes probably in ever, but you get a ticket for dry cleaning, and this ticket right here, upon when you give that ticket, they give you your clothes. Well, that used to be what it was with fiat currency when they had the silver and gold certificates. It was redeemable for the exact same amount of silver. So if you had $1 out in circulation, you had an ounce of silver, for example, or an ounce of gold in the treasury that represented. That's no longer anymore. Now it's fiat currency. It's not silver. It's not a certificate. It's fiat. In other words, this is worth $5 because I say it is, and I'm the politician, and what I say goes. This is worth $10 because I say it is. It's by fiat. It's by edict. And now there's no backing at all. So now you have this claim check for your dry cleaning, and everybody's acting like this is the garment itself, and it's not. Like $1 is worth anything. It's not worth anything. It's completely illusory. And if you want to find out do I have any money? Oh, Trish got all my money. Babe. You got all my money, babe? Oh, I do have one. Oh yeah, 20. See, if you want to find out who owns you, just look at it's on your Federal Reserve note. It's not even a dollar bill. It's a Federal Reserve note. Where does it say it on the 20? Right there. You want to find out who owns you? Right there. This note is legal tender for all debts, public and private. You want to find out who owns you? This is a federal, what kind of note is it? A Federal Reserve note. They're basically saying, we own this. And because we own this, we own you. If you're working for this, you're working for the Federal Reserve. It's worth nothing. There is no gold in the Treasury to back this right here. It's just paper and cloth. That's all it is. It's worthless. But I mean, it's worth something in people's minds, so we can use it to buy food now. You can use it to buy a car or a table or a pen or things, or a computer, or things that are useful. But that musical chairs game is about to end, guys. And when the music stops and you don't have a chair and you're sitting on all these banknotes, these Federal Reserve notes, you need to get rid of these as quickly as possible and convert them into something that's actually valuable, like water, like lead, the other precious metal. If you don't have lead if you have gold and silver, but you don't have lead, then you don't have the most important metal, because you can have all the food and gold and silver and water, but if you don't have something to protect and defend that with the other precious metal, I don't know. It seems like a pretty tenuous situation there. Beer and cigarettes, says Michael. The left needs to go to another country. When will America collapse? Who knows? Back to Shamil. Thanks. I saw you did a super chat, man. Thank you. I appreciate it. About the useless eaters. There's so many useless eaters. Tony Hardy says, do you know why a shot glass is called that? No? Weed is the best resource? Yeah, can you imagine? I said this to somebody the other day, and they called me a pothead or something like that. It's not even about legalizing weed, because the legal and illegal is just a figment of people's imagination. Can you imagine if the government just said, I don't care what you do. It doesn't matter to me what you own. If you want to grow marijuana or cannabis or cocoa for the whatever it is for cocaine, whatever. The cannabis plant, marijuana is, look it up on the internet. Hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of uses. I think one of Ford's first cars, the shell of the car was made completely from hemp. Durable. It's like one of those things where you could punch it and it would dent in for a second and then dent back out. Completely durable, light. Hemp rope. medicinal. It can be used for medicinal purposes. You could completely revolutionize America if the government just hands off of anything marijuana related. Have people growing it everywhere. What was it? One of the founding fathers said. Well, there's some famous quote about. Let me see if I can find it. I think it was Washington, maybe, and a lot of those weren't they farmers of cannabis? I don't know. Founding fathers. Oops. Let's see. Claims about Thomas Jefferson, American, are mostly. Sometimes you give a quote and people are like, that's a spurious quote. It's like when Washington said, government is not eloquence, it's not reason, it's force and like fire, it's a dangerous servant and fearful master. I don't care if Washington said that or not. Is it true? Yeah, it is true. Government is not eloquence, it's not reason, it's not logic, it's not truth, it's force. It's coercion, it's theft, it's slavery. Insert any word, it's corruption. Any bad word you can think of, just put it under government, it's probably going to fit. It'll stick. It'll work. It doesn't matter if Washington said that or not. The government is not eloquence. It's not reason. It's not logic. It's not truth. It's not respect for life. Government is death. Government is chains. Government is slavery. Government is fiat currency notes of debt. It's like, no, we trust our politicians. Oh, really? Back in 1913, one of those politicians, can you name his name? Can you name it? He even regretted getting into this kind of situation and wrote it in one of his books called The New, I can't remember. I can't remember what Wilson wrote, what the name of his book was. Can you guys remember what his book was? The New something. Anyway, he said there's a force so powerful that if you dare to speak above your breath, it's not going to work out too good for you, mate. Not going to work out too good for you at all. Hemp was outlawed. Yes, outlawed in 1936 when DuPont invented nylon. I've heard that story. Prior to that, cotton and hemp dominated the textile industry. Yeah, I heard one of the reasons that hemp was outlawed was because of Dow and because of the Hearst Corporation, because they'd already invested heavily in trees so that they could have their newsprint. I haven't really substantiated that. It sounds feasible to me. He said that right before. Oh, wait, I'm missing something. Good hanging out with you guys, by the way. Oh, man, I got to get going. Let's see. Just got to catch up. Yeah, Wilson. Yeah, Wilson did screw us. Woodrow Wilson. The New Freedom. There you go. Thank you. Thank you, Justin G. Matter of fact, I sent that free ebook out like 3 or 4 months ago. Let me see. Income tax is unconstitutional? Yep. And the 16th Amendment was not legally ratified in any way. What's legality? Who cares if it was ratified or... Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. It is all a scam. But who cares if they ratified it? It would still be a scam. Let's see. That didn't age well, Brian. What didn't age well? Dollar backed by human capital. Adam K says, voting is immoral. It's like writing a note to a mobster to go and take the laboring efforts of someone else. It doesn't matter if it's issued for good or bad. It's still immoral. I agree. I agree with that. The fundamental immorality of voting is you're supporting a political parasite who you want to be your ruler, but you also know that that person is going to rule somebody else and make laws which are nothing more than the opinions of politicians backed by the threat of force. So that person you supported through your vote is going to extort a whole bunch of people because he's in power. And a lot of people go, well, you can't just not vote. What if we don't vote? What you're saying is, well, we can't just not participate in evil. We can't just not participate in corruption. We can't just not put insane psychopaths up there who are going to actually cause the death of hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people. the laws that people write, these psychopaths, and when I say laws, I'm doing it loosely. It's not, these aren't laws. Men aren't making laws. They're making politicians, they're writing them on fancy pieces of paper, and they're backing them by the threat of force. Thanks, law enforcement. That's what law enforcement does. They back the politicians' commands. Think about it. No law would have any teeth if the law enforcers goes, screw it, I'm not enforcing that. They wouldn't have any teeth at all. They could do whatever they wanted in Congress. If we just didn't follow along, we'd have happy days. Happy days. But when you vote, you're actually consenting. You're going along. You're partaking in a system that from the top to the bottom is corrupt. It's filled with villains. And if you want a power vacuum of psychopaths, just go ahead and keep on voting, because that is exactly what's happening. All those people, all the psychopaths, all the narcissistic, psychopathic puppets travel to Washington's District of Criminals, AOC, Nazi Pelosi, Diane Frankenstein, Adam Schiff for brains, Donald Trump. All these people gravitate toward that because that's where they're going to make their money. That's where they're going to acquire their power. That's where they're going to make more laws and make everybody else, subservient to them. So when you're voting, you're contributing to that system. So what's the answer? Stop being immoral. Stop doing immoral things. That's when the earth's going to start getting better. And can you imagine what would happen if 51% of us were over here going, this is all ridiculous? You guys see it when Nazi Pelosi sits up there and she's trying to read that teleprompter and keep her dentures in at the same time, saying, we're going to start the impeachment process. Gosh, I think I need another drink just to get me by for the day. She's a functioning alcoholic or something. I don't know. She's on pharmaceutical medication. Who knows? She is old. I'll cut her some slack for that. But she's psychopathic. She's parasitic. She wants to take your guns. She wants to extract more wealth from you. She wants to make you feel bad about climate change while she jet sets across the country. And she's just one of them. She's just one of the many parasites. It's all parasitic. So I agree with Adam K. Voting is immoral. It's utterly immoral because you are participating in a corrupt system, and basically you're begging the mafia crime bosses to extract the laboring energy of somebody else so that you can provide Medicare for all, or so that you can provide for the military industrial complex, or build the wall or whatever. It's all immorality. I'm gonna cut this short, guys. I gotta get out of here. I appreciate you guys hanging with me. Yeah, Chuck Schumer is a complete hypocritical parasite to get up there and try to, and so is Nazi Pelosi and all these people for the impeachment. If any politician has ever gone against just one thing, the Second Amendment, if they have laid down an idea for infringement in a light, just a feather's weight degree of infringement, they have committed an impeachable offense. They've betrayed the American people by saying, hey, I'm putting a roadblock in between you and your personal protection device that you want. I don't care how light, I don't care how heavy. If they've gone just that one thing against that one thing, and they've done way like eons beyond that, but I'm just going to stick with one thing because it keeps it really, really simple. On that basis alone, almost every single politician in the halls of Congress, everybody in the House, everybody in the Senate, everybody in the executive branch, everybody in the judiciary, everybody needs to be impeached. In other words, eliminate government, because they are our problem. See, government's not the solution to our problem. Government is the problem. You guys have a good day. I got to take off.